views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Standing at the door, looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again, as my spirit's guiding me.
Hi, this is Lainey Risto, and you're listening to Soul Chat and watching it as well. And my guest host this week is
Kara Keating.
Kara Keating. She is the creator and organizer and operator,
Director of Soul Sanctuary and Interfaith Center here in Las Vegas.
I know if I threw enough of them out there, you'd tell me what the right one was. Yeah. We're going to talk today about living or suffering and or suffering as an empath. And Kara has written a book. What was the name of the book?
I have a book out that's called I Am Enough by God.
And by is little, so it's by God. Right?
Yes,
yeah,
by
I liked
God.
That. I thought that was great. And you just got back from New York.
Exactly.
And tell us where you've been.
I have been in New York. I'm actually a seminary student with One Spirit Learning Alliance, which is an interfaith seminary based in New York City.
Oh, great. Yeah, and you don't look that tired after being on a plane till... What time did you get in last night?
I got in last night at like 7 o'clock, so
yeah.
I'm not sure what time zone I'm on, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I don't know what day it is, so we're equal. I'm going to... We'll talk about what we're going to do with all of this. But first, I like to do right at the top of the show, I like to do a segment that's called What I Learned About Myself This Week. And last week I was sharing that I realized there's a part of me that is still really scared about really showing who I am. Really, I mean, not just, ta-da, I'm here, but this is stepping up with whatever it is that I love to do. And I think there's some nervousness about being judged and whatever. And this week what I was learning is all the little ways I sabotage myself. Mm-hmm. And everybody says procrastination. Well, yeah, but it's a little deeper than that. It's more, because procrastination is an action, but this is actually procrastinating about things that would move me ahead, like making sure the database is up, calling certain people. I've had somebody in California waiting for me to book a 2-day event, and it goes literally right out of my head, which is interesting. And then I wake up about a week later going, wait a minute, I was supposed to do that. And I can write it any place that I want. So I'm in process, this is what I was talking about last week, is I'm really in process to try and figure out what is this saboteur that I have rolling around inside. And part of it is to keep me safe. I understand that when it went in place, it was really about, it had a job. It was to keep me safe because whatever reason I put it in place, which most of that stuff goes in when we're kids.
Yeah.
Right? It had a job. And what I know, I've done this work long enough, I've done shamanic work long enough, I've done energy work long enough to know that if you just try and get rid of it, it just like digs in because it doesn't want to lose its job.
Yeah.
So I'm actually getting some shamanic life coaching, and we may have her on her. I had a phone call with her this morning, and it was really good. It was really good. And some people say, well, you should know everything. No, not so much. Do you feel like you know everything?
Oh, heck no. The more that I know, the more I know I don't know. So
right, yeah. So what did you learn this week besides planes are still in the air?
Besides lots of travel and how to do the New York subway. What I learned this week is actually similar, but almost the flip coin of what you had learned, which is that everything gets done even if I don't do it all.
Isn't that some?
So as I was going into seminary, in leaving town and all of that kind of thing, I had a really long to-do list, and I left that to-do list behind. It didn't take any of my work with me. I'm also, graduate student on top of seminary, on top of owning, and starting up Soul Sanctuary. So I left all of those things, all the social media, all of that behind me for the weekend, and I came back with a real clarity that I am in my spirit doing the right things when I am relaxed and in my spirit doing the right things. Everything else that isn't important sloughs off. And then the few things that I do need to do show up as this is what I need to do. And then I show up for them present.
Now, given that I was just talking about having something that's it's a little part of me that's sabotaging, probably a big part, but a little part. The one thing is that I bet if that would have been me and I had come home and all those things got done anyway, that little saboteur would have gone, nuts, I thought I had that taken care of. I thought that would screw her up, you know. It didn't work, so.
That's funny. Yeah, I know that.
Okay. One of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you, and I had we just met, like, what, 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. It was a really interesting circle. I was doing a healing circle, and Kara was in it. One of the things that kept coming up for about the third time was about empaths.
Mm-hmm.
And I had someone that came to me that had just been to the circle that you had done, because you have one called
Empaths Unite.
Right. And I thought, you know, it's come up, and I have this rule of the three.
Mm-hmm.
The third time I hear it, the third time it's suggested to me, it's like, I got to at least look at this
Mm-hmm.
and see if it's something I want to do.
Exactly.
And it just made perfect sense to have you come in and we just have this discussion. And we've already talked a little bit about it. So, yeah. And we've done a show before when Jay McGuire was here. We did a show also as empaths. I would like, I think people need to understand what that means, because I think sometimes people think that empath and empathy are separate, and they really are very tied.
Yes, they're very tied.
So what's your definition of an empath?
Well, my definition of an empath is actually somebody who feels other people's energy. And so you can feel, many people just, will feel sad when you are expressing sad emotions, or somebody else in front of them is expressing sad emotions, but an empath actually takes that in, and they become sad as well, or they become happy as well, or they become frustrated as well. They take it into their energy, and it becomes a part of them.
And when they get in, and many empaths will talk about how their life shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Why do you think?
I think that is because they're getting too much energy. They're getting an energy overload, and they don't know what is their energy and what is somebody else's energy. The boundaries are no longer in place, and so they just feel overwhelmed. And they feel like everywhere they go, they don't feel well after they go there. They pick up energies everywhere that they go, and they don't feel safe in the world because they never know what kind of energy is going to be coming at them.
Yeah. And what do they do with it? What do they do when they feel that? What do you think some reactions are? You said not feeling well. But.
Not feeling well. Some people actually feel sick, physically sick. Other people I know hide, that they can't sleep until other people in the house go to bed. They can't be out in public, that it just is so much work for them to be out in public. But probably the most common thing that I see is they seem to be always constantly processing emotions. They're never settled. They're never clear and in their own sense of self. And so they're constantly processing because they don't know what's their emotion versus what somebody else's.
Okay. I think that all of that is true. And the discussion I was having with someone the other day was that being an empath and having empathy for someone are they're cousins. They're the same. The words are built the same.
Yes.
But they're cousins. And having sympathy for a situation is one that you are apologetic for it. You feel like they need support. So you say something. My mother passed away recently, and I had a lot of people that would say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss." And some people I knew very well who said that, and I knew where they were coming from. Mm-hmm. Some people not so well, so I wanted to believe I knew where they were coming from. But there are some people that simply are saying it because they feel like they have to say something.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
Empathy, on the other hand, empathy is someone who absolutely can empathize or absolutely understands, let's say, 90% of the situation that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I believe that what happens is that because that identifies so closely, usually with human experience,
yes,
I don't think there's anything that I can see in you or anybody else that I'm not either working on or I've already experienced in some way. If it's not anything that it looks like I have a difficult time because my family of origin, there wasn't an alcoholic family. It's one of the families that came through the 50s where it was touched by it, but kind of distantly.
Okay.
Right? I don't recognize people that have an alcoholic problem.
Oh, interesting.
But I easily recognize people who have a workaholic problem because my parents worked all the time. When they weren't working in their hardware store, they were playing dance jobs, so they weren't available. And of course, everybody knows with addiction, I hope everybody knows, that the damage is done because somebody's not available.
Exactly.
There's no emotional availability.
Mm-hmm.
So the empathy part of it is recognizing that thing that's in me, and it happens so quickly.
Yes.
That all of a sudden I'm either reliving my experience or it is so close to the bone that I can recognize it immediately and I want to help that person.
Exactly.
I want to, and actually people would say to me, because my mother was 96, she had dementia.
Mm-hmm.
The people that understood the situation that said, we understand you're sad, but there's a relief involved here.
Yeah.
This merry-go-round called dementia is over. The
Yes.
family's not going through it again.
Mm-hmm.
So what the topic that we're really talking about is living or suffering. Some people suffer to the point because they're feeling all of that, and their
Exactly.
own emotions, I think, are coming up and clouding the issue, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's what is it? How can I tell the difference?
Well, there's another piece that I'd like to mention here,
Sure.
too.
Yep.
So as you're talking about that, it brings up those pieces within you.
Mm-hmm.
I actually feel like that piece in me is actually a map. Not so much as it is things that I need to heal, as much as it is things. It's helping me identify an energy that's coming at me, and so if it brings me back to a memory or it brings me back to something that's familiar in my system, it actually helps me label the energy that's before me, so I kind of know what to do. But there's a difference, though, if you can hold your own field and your own energy clear
Right.
to get that information versus when it comes into your field and then you feel like you're working on your own past healing.
Or it's your stuff and it's not the other person's. I think that's where people get in trouble.
Exactly.
And then they feel like they have to hide,
Exactly.
and they have to feel like they have to do something, and they feel like a victim.
Exactly.
Now, from my point of view, and this is something you and I were talking about, which is really similar to what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, all the time I believe that we draw people to us in our life that reflect to us parts of ourselves.
Yes.
Not just the bad things, the good things too.
Exactly.
I was just having a conversation with someone we both know this afternoon, and we were talking about past relationships. One relationship I had totally brought me the ability to play like a child again.
That's lovely.
But there wasn't much depth, and so it didn't last. I mean, it lasted for a while, and then it didn't last anymore. But it reflected a part of me that in that case, a part of me that needed to come up and out. The other thing I think that happens with people that are empaths is that it's like, which is kind of what you said, is like we have this lens, and if I look at one person, if I look at George, and I look at George and I say, I like this about him and that about him. One of the practices I've been through in several self-help groups and all of that is that, I like him because he's honest. Now I have to look at my own mirror
Yes.
and say, the reason I like that is because I like that in me. Or if there's something in him I don't like, I need to look and see, what is that in me? Is there something in me that's mine? Or is that his stuff? Now we get into that murky territory.
How do you know?
How do you know?
What's
Yeah.
yours, what's
Yeah.
theirs, and what's in between?
Right, right. And if you feel like you're walking into a room full of cats with their tails under a rocking chair,
That's a good analogy.
and the lens on your camera is this big, so you're taking in everybody. How do you filter that down? What do you do to kind of help people? Because you've seen people. I've seen people. I think you can be very intuitive and not be an empath.
Yes.
But I don't believe you can be an empath without some intuition.
Yes, I think the two go together, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So in terms of knowing what's yours and what's somebody else's, that's a really difficult thing. It takes some time learning to manage your energy field. It takes some time learning to manage what you allow in and what you don't. And so
And
once you
sometimes
start
the best
doing
you
that,
can, I'm interrupting, but sometimes the best, if I get up in the morning, and I've had clients the day before, and I'm feeling like I'm kind of hanging on by a toenail, I've noticed that the best thing I can do at that moment, and that it is, what is the best thing I can do in this moment? The best thing I can do is give myself a few hours in the morning with no input.
yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah. But it took a long time to get there
Hmm.
because real life happens. You have to get up, you got to go work, you got to do all these things. Right?
Well, yeah, and I think one of the other things, one of the myths about being an empath is that a lot of people act like it's, and I did too, for a long time, I really did. I acted like it was something that was happening to me.
Right.
That I had no say in, that it was this gift that was just damaging me and I couldn't control it, and all of these people were coming at me and I didn't know what to do and I hid. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that we have a choice and that we can set an energetic boundary. We can say, I will not feel your feelings for you. I will receive the information that I'm supposed to get intuitively from the emotional field or emotional body that's in front of me, but I do not have to feel your feelings for you. And so, especially if I walk into a charged room, I will plant my feet and I will tell the energy in the room, I will not feel your feelings for you.
So you're really kind of stepping up and declaring your space when you're doing that.
I am setting my
Right.
own energetic boundary because I have a choice whether to receive that energy or not. And I think a lot of empaths don't know that. And I think when I do take the time to set that energetic, when I'm conscious enough to set that energetic boundary, I can stand in pretty charged situations now, because I will get the intuitive information. I will still get the emotional information. It'll still come into me, and I will still know what the emotion of the room is. I don't shut any of that down. What I do is tell the people that are feeling the emotion that I won't feel it for them, because I think that does a disservice for other people.
Now, are you telling them that directly, or are
Internal.
you internal?
This is
Okay.
an internal boundary and internal conversation for me to stand there and plant my feet. And it's really important that I put my body in, for me, it's really important I put my body in a stance of power, that my feet are planted, that they're hip width apart, and that I say to the energy that this is what my boundary is. And it's a lot easier to stand in charged rooms. It's a lot easier. I even do it in relationships with other people.
Oh, just keep talking. I've got something that's on. I thought I had that thing shut off, and that's just not happening.
That's okay.
There we go.
That's okay.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
I don't know. I was
Something-
setting energetic boundaries with the energy, but there's also other methods that I've figured out that actually really help.
Okay. So talk about that a
I'll
minute,
talk
because
about
I
a
just
couple
saw
of
something just happened that
Okay.
I've got to take care
You take care of that real quick. So one of the other pieces with an empath, one of my telltale signs that I tell people, you're an empath, is when you know that everybody and their dog tells you their life story. They come up to you, perfect strangers come up to you in the supermarket, and before you know it, you know the entire history of their life. And on the airplane returning from New York last night, I know the entire history of the two people that were sitting next to me for 6 hours on the air ride back. They cannot help but come up and tell me their life story, and oftentimes they're often purging really emotional things and sadness and disappointments and all of that kind of stuff. So I used to take all of that in or come back from it, wondering why all these people are telling me all these terrible things. But what I've kind of gotten to with the empath piece is I actually think that we have a bigger purpose. I think that that people come up to empaths intuitively, knowing that we might be able to help transform some of their emotional body. And so I have been, with a lot of success actually, playing with a different way of being present with somebody. So I used to I used to like step aside or find excuses to exit as fast as I can when I was up standing in front of somebody that was really charged with emotional energy. And I used to, as fast as I could, get out of that scenario. I'm an empath. Yay!
Sorry about that.
But to I used to try and exit that situation when somebody was, right in front of me with all this emotional body. But if I go into the situation telling the energy I will not feel their feelings for them, it sets an energetic boundary for me. And then as they are draining whatever story it is that they need to drain, I watch it just go down my energy field, down to Mother Earth to be transformed. I never take it into my field, and I don't send it back to them because they oftentimes will stay charged, even if I send it back in love.
Right. That's pretty interesting because I like your, obviously, being a shamanic healer, I like your reference to Mother Earth. That is something I think that's really important, is not to send it back to them. We do shamanic, one of the rituals that I do is called soul releasing, and it's when somebody, you've had an interaction, let's say you and I are in an argument, and we break away from each other, but the argument keeps running in our head.
Yeah, I've been there.
And we refer to that shamanically as soul stealing, because I'm now hooked into you, you're hooked into me, and maybe you're one of those people that can walk away and say, well, that was dumb, and you go on with your day. But some of us, a lot of us don't. So one of the things that we do in this ceremony or ritual is that we will write whatever we want to say to that person. We might print a picture off. We might, and we work with the elements a lot. So I work with fire. And what we'll do is wrap it in sage, and we'll give it to the fire and ask that energy to be taken up to the spirit. And let the spirit return it, like a spiritual post office. Return it when it's time to go back to that person, because we don't know if they're ready to take it.
Exactly.
So I like that that you were talking about.
Exactly.
And it also brought to mind when somebody comes up and feels that, because they feel, people are drawn to this kind of sensitivity.
Yes, they
They
are.
go, oh my gosh, somebody can finally listen to my story. And some people, as we know, have to tell the story over and over. And I've done it.
I know,
I've
me
done it
too.
myself.
Been there.
Got to tell the story. It's like a good friend of mine when I was going through my second divorce. We were writing some music, and we were in the studio. And I was all caught up in the story, the latest whatever had happened of the divorce. And he just kind of sat back and he went, okay, tell me the story one more time. You got to discharge this before we're going to go on, so go ahead. I think...
But I have something to say about that, though,
Okay.
too. Because when they're discharging the energy, if you ask for divine energy to come in and
Yeah.
divine light, it displaces the story.
It does.
It displaces it. And so, but if you just sit there, they'll go on and on and on forever until you call in what it is they're craving, which is divine energy and divine light.
And what I notice is what's going on in me while I'm sitting there listening. And there's a part of me, like you said, that wants to run away, wants to just get out of this situation. Things come to mind because I'm a real smart aleck. And so things come up. If they could hear what's going on in my head. But I'm sitting there thinking it, and they're talking to me. And who's out of integrity with who here?
Yes.
Not only are they out of integrity with me because they're not asking if I care, right? But I'm sitting there taking this. I am not in my integrity with myself saying, I really feel for you. I can tell that this is a story that really means a lot to you, but I'm not really in a good place right now to deal with this.
That's healthy boundaries.
That's a healthy, and I tend to look at, and I understand the whole thing about boundaries. I tend to come from a place of, instead of putting up a boundary, because in those kinds of terms, putting
Yes.
up a wall, because it takes a tremendous amount of energy to keep it up.
Yes, I agree with you. It doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for me either.
Shielding and things along those lines
It doesn't work for me either.
It's hard to
now,
maintain.
Shielding myself with the light of the Creator or God or whatever you want to call it, that's an infinite that can do it all day long.
Absolutely.
But that's not one that I can do. But in that light, what I can do, and it's something that I learned, and it's something that several other people I know have learned as well, and we call it transfiguration.
Okay, tell me about that.
And it's about bringing, you imagine the highest form of light that you can imagine, about 8 inches above your head. And you bring it down through your body, and you go down through the chakras, and you can send it down into Mother Earth. until you feel Mother Earth reaching up and holding it. And I think I've done that process with you.
Yes, you have.
And that grounds you and it connects you to the sky at the same time. But the other thing that can be done is you just get quiet and you go into the center of yourself. And you look for that spark that is a chip off the old block. That is the spark. It's a spark of the divine. And it's there in all of us. Even the most vile person in the world, it might be buried under 2,500 tons of crap.
Yes.
But it's still always there. And what you do is you go in and you step into it and you let it expand.
Oh, I like
And
that
so
one.
what you do is you go in and you step in, and the first thing you do is you let it fill your body, or you start small. You find the spark. And you can do it, once you get used to it, you can do it in a heartbeat. It's just like pop, 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 pop. So you step into the spark, you let it fill your heart, then you let it fill your chest, then you let it fill your body. And when you can feel that spark is now as big as that,
Yes.
you let it go into the room, you let it go into the building, you let it to go out onto the street, fill the valley, cover the earth, go out through the stars. So you're this expanded awareness. And this morning I was working with a friend of mine, and we did that because I was mired down in minutia. So she did that with me, and I went out to the edge, and then I looked back at the minutia from that distance
That's lovely.
to see what does that look like from there. And what I saw was a bunch of ants running around on the ground. Some of them were fake, some of them were real, but I needed to, it's all a process.
Yes, you need to
So
discern.
I find that doing that process, which we call transfiguration, with transfiguring with the light, I become like the sun. And what can stand next to the sun?
Exactly.
Another sun.
Exactly.
Or, so what happens is people either ramp their energy up, which is going to bring a higher vibration, or they go away because it can't be done. And some people have to tell their story.
Exactly.
So-
Well, and I personally feel, and maybe this is because I'm in ministry, but I actually personally feel that sometimes the people that show up to talk to me about their story, that it is it's a divine appointment where I'm to minister to
That's
them.
right. That's right.
So there is that aspect, and to know which one that is, that's really an inner discernment.
Right.
But one of the things that I like what you were saying about expanding the energy, because I do something similar to
Right.
that, which is I pull in divine energy through my crown chakra, take it down to my feet, but then I take it back up to my solar plexus, and then I will claim energy in spaces. In particular, because I hear from a lot of people that they're uncomfortable in their home, or they're uncomfortable in the energy in their apartments, or they're uncomfortable in the energy at their work. And so one of the things that I have started doing is when I get to a place, I will, again, plant my feet, pull in the divine energy, and have it come out my solar plexus and spread my light from my solar plexus all around myself and then out
Right.
to the room. And it changes, for me, the experience has been, it changes the vibration of the room, and it changes then people who come into the room. They either have to, like you said, come up
Yeah. Come up to vibration.
to that vibration that I'm setting.
And we've all had that experience where we walk in a room and we know where we want to stand. Or we
Yes.
know there's some place we may see someone and we go, well, I don't really want to go stand the next person. We may not even know them.
Yes.
There's an intuition going on there that we need to
Yes.
recognize. And we'll do that, So if you do that thing that you're talking about is expanding your own light so that it's out. And it's an easy thing to do, and the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Exactly.
You're operating in your own field of energy. You're not
Yes.
operating inside of somebody else's. And here's the thing. In my world, you can't operate in somebody else's energy field. You can't do it. It won't happen.
No.
And
It's
if
not
you
healthy.
and nobody can really work in mine unless I let them.
Yes. But see, that's where the empaths actually have permission. You can let people's energy into you, or you cannot. But you have a choice. You actually have a choice, and then you have to remain conscious. For me, it's a lesson in consciousness to remember to use all the tools, to walk into a room and expand my energy, and to be conscious and have the boundary. I won't feel your feelings for you. That's for you to do.
Well, you
know?
can't anyway.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, if you go back to the Buddhist or the Hindu or some of the Eastern spiritual philosophy, you can't feel somebody else's feelings anyway. Thoughts become things.
Yeah.
What happens is you can recognize somebody else's feelings and align with it. But truly, a situation happens we can say, that guy just walked in the room and he glared at me. Is that true?
Interesting.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because what we know is a fact that you can't deny is this guy walked by and he turned and looked at you. Was it a glare? I mean, you have a feeling that it is. But now you get to discern, ooh, was that really an angry glare? And was that really at me, or was he seeing somebody else? Or maybe he wasn't, but I'm angry about something and I'm shoving it through my filters. Now we get down to really, but you can't make somebody feel anything. You can present information.
Yes. Yes.
And then,
They
it's,
have a choice
yeah.
of what they're doing with the
yeah,
information.
yeah, feelings aren't facts. Feelings are interpretations of something that we're looking at, and everybody's got their own perspective. Now, does that mean empaths shouldn't feel that way? Not at all. Because there are some incredibly sensitive people walking around out there that feel bombarded all the time. And I did that for a long time, and the easiest way for me to deal with it was to hide out on a 40-acre farm.
Yeah. That's a good place for an
That's a
empath.
good
I
place,
see a lot
yeah.
of empaths hiding out.
Got kind of lonesome, but, you know.
But the other the flip side of empath, I mean, beyond like other people's energy coming in and, you know, all of that kind of, that type of managing of the gift. There's also the aspect of the gift. It's really a great gift to have.
It really is.
It really is. My intuitive ability is where I get all of my wisdom. It's my number one source of guidance. It's my number one source of my own truth. It's the number one source of my connection, actually, with the divine. Where I feel my empathic gift is actually where I have the most of my wisdom.
Well, and now we're down to, can you have intuition without being an empath? And I think the truth of that is yes. Can you be an empath without intuition? No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think it's incredibly... I mean, I can look at my dog and tell when my dog isn't feeling well and all she's doing is laying there. So, wow, what's going on? You know, I'm reading something. There's an awareness that I've got, that I'm reading something. That's hyper. And I think everybody is possible. We did this last week. We were talking about intuition. That's why to follow it with this show was perfect.
No, perfect.
Is that the intuition is something that I think everybody is capable of. Whether they have it or not, it depends on their awareness. And some people choose not to go there, and that's fine. You know, but intuition shows up in the funniest ways. It could show up in a dream. It can show up while you're walking down the street and you look at somebody and go, there's something wrong with that person, or there's a health issue here. And medical intuitives, to me, are fascinating.
I agree with you.
How do they know? And the only place that I can think of that they get that is that there is a connection somehow just to a higher source, to a higher viewpoint.
I agree.
To a higher vibration that they're tapped into.
What was interesting, though, for me is one of the lessons that they did for me in seminary. We were studying, I think we were studying Buddhism, and we had this gentleman teaching us these meditation techniques, but he was taking our awareness to different aspects of, you know, it was up in the head, it was in the heart, and we were experiencing different places in the body. And everywhere else that he would take my awareness, I felt really ungrounded and really uncomfortable. And so when he would, you know, the lesson would stop and the class would go back to talking about what that experience was, before I would come out of the meditation, I would go ahead and put my awareness back where I feel my empathic gift, because that's actually where I get the information.
Now, where do you feel that in your
For
body?
me, it's in my solar plexus. But for other people, I've actually heard them say it feels more up in their heart chakra area, but it's not a part of the heart chakra, but they feel it in their sternum more than they do in their solar plexus. But for me, that's the space that I actually feel the gift more. And so since that experience, because a lot of meditation out there is very heart-centered or very head-centered, or they're trying to drop the energy between those two centers, or even into the voice if you do chantings and stuff.
Right.
But very few things I've found out there that actually drop you into your solar plexus. And so now when I meditate, instead of meditating from my third eye or from other parts of my body, I will actually meditate, and I get wonderful guidance when I drop into where I feel my sense.
And that's why many times when people that have come to my circles, and I think I did it at the one you were at, is I will start with a certain color of light and I go with whatever they're giving me, whatever they say. with a color of light and bring it down through the body so it brings it through all of them
Mm-hmm.
and anchor it into Mother Earth.
I like that.
And then, because in Nordic practices, we looked at the tree of wisdom, the world tree, as being the trunk of it is what is here in this reality, and all healing emanates from there. But
Mm-hmm.
it begins either in Mother Earth or Father Sky.
I like that.
So it's that world tree notion. So we do that and bring that energy down, and that way it's come to that place, and we're bringing people actually into their body.
I like that. I like
So I really appreciate what you're saying about it. And I think if I'm an empath and I come to you and I say, wow, I just can't hardly leave my house. I went to the grocery store, and I've had this experience where I can't wait to get out.
that. Yeah.
I can't wait to leave. It has nothing to do with screaming children. It has nothing to do with, it doesn't
Yeah.
have, it's just like, I got to get out of this place.
I know.
Right.
I went to Costco over Christmas. I was very brave.
Oh, no, for me, it's Walmart. I don't go to Walmart. I can't even deal with the parking lot in Walmart, right? And I came to you and I said, Kara, I got to go into Walmart. It's, or maybe I'm in a town, why let that stuff stop you?
Yes.
What would you say to that person? How would you start them to getting a handle on this?
Couple of things.
Okay.
One is that I would actually tell them to go home. The way to distinguish, one of the easier ways for me to distinguish my own energy is actually if I take like an Epsom salt bath. And I sit in that Epsom salt bath, but then I drop my awareness into where I feel my empathic gift, because that's where my truth lay. And so as I'm in the bath, I imagine like the energy from my empathic gift pushing, I imagine divine energy coming into where I feel my gift and pushing all other energies out into the bath.
Okay.
And being rid of all the places and pieces of other people's energy. And so that's probably the first step, is to clear your own field a little bit so you kind of have a sense of what is your own. But going into a situation, you really have to decide that you have a choice in whether or not you're going to feel anything, whether or not, because you can still get the most incredible intuitive guidance, even if you're not an emotional mess feeling all the energies that are in a room. So they have to choose. They have to actually believe and choose and say to the energy, I will not feel this. I will not feel this. I will get the information, but I won't feel it. And those two pieces for me are number one. I mean, there's all sorts of little nuanced things we can talk about, but making the conscious choice whether or not to feel the energy, I think, is step one. And working at ways in which to clear the field so you know what's yours and what's not.
And I think that's an important thing. Now, one of the things that I did this morning with my friend was, like I said, she's a life coach. And we were talking about it. I thought, this is perfect for the show today. She did the kinesiology piece,
Okay.
which is where you do muscle testing or you use your body to give you clues. So she said, tell me what you feel when I ask you these questions. Is this the truth? I love to drink paint thinner. And where do you, and I had an immediate body reaction because I just, and what I felt was this, it just like this thud. It was like this energy that just dropped in my body. It was dense. It was whatever. And she goes, okay, now clear that. So we took a deep breath, cleared that.
Okay.
Now, is this the truth? Where do you feel this in your body? I love to drink water, clear, cold water. And that was a whole different thing.
Yeah.
That raised like this. So then I got a little confused because we were talking about it. And she said, when you feel something coming at you, where do you feel it in your body? Which is similar to what you're saying. If I get that, and this is an individual thing, if I get that, oh, here it is again. Here's this dense whatever. It's probably not mine,
Yes.
right? But if I feel this light, my body has just gone through a thing where I've just said, oh, that wasn't mine, but I'm going to release it now.
Yeah.
Right? And what was really interesting for me, and if you think about it, I think this is the truth. If I have no reaction to something, like I'm looking at this microphone, do I have an emotional reaction to it? No, not so much. It's a mic. That's when you're in your own stuff.
Yes.
everything, it doesn't matter. And you look at it from the point of view of everything is interesting. Isn't it interesting? This woman is coming over to tell me about, you know, her Aunt Bertha that, you know,
Yes.
whatever, or the dog that just got run over and she didn't ask me. Isn't that interesting? Why would she feel she could do that? You've now just kind of stepped back. If you can just take that one little step back.
That actually reminds me, there's one other empath thing that I have played with a little bit, and I have friends actually that have had quite a bit of luck with, is that when they're in a situation that's charged, or they're at the mall or whatever, is that rather than their energy coming to the level of the energy they're in, they hold a vision of something like a butterfly, something that has positive but nothing particularly
It's very safe.
charged.
It's
Just
a safe
something
energy.
very safe, positive energy, and they'll just hold the image, and it will pull their vibration higher, pull it up out of it. It gives that sense of separation from the other energy.
Okay.
Does that
So
make
we're
sense?
both talking about,
So
we're both talking about the
same thing.
same thing. Is that putting just a little bit of distance to step back? Because
Exactly.
I believe that it is about awareness.
I
It
agree
is
too.
about, and it's awareness coming from here.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I could just see myself walking through a mall and somebody coming up, or someone I know saying, "Oh, this is what happened to me. Excuse me, I have a butterfly to follow over here. I've got to go right now." You know?
Yeah, sometimes I'm a little
Sometimes,
odd when you
yeah.
talk to me, I have to say, because I'm either planting my feet or watching energy, or
Yeah.
or looking at a little
And they either
butterfly out of the corner
run
of my
away
eye.
in fear, or they go call a phone and they say, "We got a woman down here that needs to be." They've been saying about that for years, you know.
Yeah.
So it's good to laugh about being an empath, because I've heard people that have they're miserable.
Yeah.
They're really miserable,
Mm-hmm.
and I really do empathize with them. I remember feeling like that. I remember not being able. I remember having panic attacks,
Mm-hmm.
just dropping my kids off at swimming lessons, and just going, "Oh my God, I've got to get out of here. I've got to, you know."
And then I remember feeling, what's wrong with me?
Right.
There's something wrong
So
with
you're taking
me.
we're talking about taking the judgment out of the process.
Exactly.
Either judging them or judging yourself.
Exactly. And then living with other people or being around other people who aren't empathic, why am I always the one that's crying? Why am I always the one that's
That's right.
upset? Why am I always the one that's doing all this work? And it feels like work.
Yeah, 'cause either
when
way
other
you're worn out.
Either way you're worn out. And so, and that's kind of why I started Empaths Unite, was because I was tired of seeing empaths that weren't functional, and I was tired of them being isolated and alone and all of it.
So we just have a few minutes left.
Okay.
You know, and that was a quick.
I know that
That was
went
a quick
fast.
45 minutes, wasn't it? Why don't you give them how they can get a hold of you, and when is the next Empaths Unite?
Okay, so the next Empaths Unite meeting is actually going to be February 28th, which is a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. at Soul Sanctuary, which is at the corner of Pecos and Russell in Las Vegas.
Just east of the Sinclair gas station.
Just
right? And if they wanted to talk to you personally, do you do that? You
Yes,
take phone
I
calls?
take phone calls,
Okay.
and so you can call Soul Sanctuary. It's 702-802-9130, or you can visit the website at www.soulsanctuarylv.org.
Great. And I'm Alina Risto. I'm actually going to be tomorrow night at Karma Connection. Are you coming?
I'm going to try and come because
that's
you're
good.
drumming, aren't you?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we're drumming. Yeah, and I bring enough drums and rattles and whatever that everybody can go. It's funny. I give everybody a drumming lesson.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I need one.
Yeah. I'll give you a preview if you want.
Sounds good.
You hold the drum, here's a stick, and you go, whack.
I like that.
And that's it.
That. Oh, wow, I can do that. Will you come to Soul Sanctuary and teach that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that at all. It's going to be at 6:30 to 9, and we'll start. It's a great little store. Karma Connection is a great little store. It's on 215 in Rainbow. And what else? We'll be back next week, and I'm talking to somebody right now about, I'm not going to say what it is we're going to talk about.
Sounds good.
So this is the place, if anything spiritual that involves body, mind, and spirit, events that happen, this is about bringing that community together, because there's just so much more to look at. It's an infinite possibility. You can find us at Soul Chat on Facebook, and we have our own YouTube channel. It's called Soul Chat LV, and there's spaces between Soul and Chat and LV. And as soon as George puts it up, then I get to do that thing, whatever, convert it. It took him a while to teach me how to convert it. 2 phone calls and 1 trip down here. You know? And other than that, have a great week. If you find yourself very sensitive, the first thing to do is try and be aware. Or you could ask yourself, if you don't want to listen to it, you can look at the person and think, not my circus, not my monkeys.
I like that. One of my favorite Facebook memes.
Do it with humor or do it whatever. But the point is put a little distance in there and try and get some perspective. And you can reach me at 702-308-8464. And other than that, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Kara. It was great. That just zipped right along. You come back, right?
I will, absolutely.
That's great.
Thank you.
Great. Bye, everybody. See you.
Here I am, standing at the door, looking back at life as it's been before.